Life is a journey full of challenges and uncertainties, where we continually seek motivation and guiding light. In these moments, the teachings of Jesus in the Scriptures become a lighthouse illuminating our souls, bringing peace and hope. The profound and meaningful words of Jesus in the Bible not only inspire faith and love, but also convey wisdom and strength to help us overcome every adversity. Today, let's explore the most meaningful quotes from Jesus. These sacred teachings will help us live a complete and meaningful life, full of blessings. Let's contemplate and apply His teachings in our daily lives by loving and forgiving one another, assisting those in need, and always maintaining faith in every circumstance. Together, let's spread the love and light of Jesus to the world. 1. Jesus turns water into wine. John 2:1-11. Context: Jesus, along with His disciples and His mother, attended a wedding at Cana in Galilee. During the celebration, they ran out of wine, which was embarrassing for the host. Story: when Mary, Jesus' mother, learned of the shortage, she told him, "They have no more wine." Jesus responded, "Woman, why do you involve me? My hour has not yet come." However, Mary instructed the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Jesus noticed 6 stone water jars used for Jewish purification rites. He said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." After they had filled them to the brim, He told them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. Surprised, he remarked that the wine was better than any served earlier. Significance: this is recorded as Jesus' first miracle, demonstrating His power and strengthening His disciples' faith in Him. 2. Jesus heals a man born blind. John 9:1-12. Context: as Jesus passed by, He saw a man who had been blind from birth. His disciples asked Him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Story: Jesus answered, "Neither this man nor his parents sinned, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him." He then spat on the ground, made mud with the saliva, and applied it to the man's eyes. Jesus instructed him, "Go, wash in the pool of Siloam." The man went, washed, and came back seeing. Neighbors and those who had seen him begging asked, "Isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg?" Some claimed he was, while others said he only looked like him. He insisted, "I am the man." They asked, "How then were your eyes opened?" He replied, "The man they called Jesus made some mud and put it on my eyes. He told me to go to Siloam and wash. So I went and washed, and then I could see." Significance: this miracle underscores that Jesus is the light of the world, possessing the power to heal both physical and spiritual blindness. 3. Jesus feeds the 5,000. Mark 6:30-44. Context: Jesus and His disciples withdrew to a solitary place to rest. However, a large crowd followed Him. Seeing them, Jesus felt compassion, for they were like sheep without a shepherd, and He began teaching them many things. Story: as it grew late, the disciples approached Jesus, saying, "This is a remote place, and it's already very late. Send the people away so they can go to the surrounding countryside and villages and buy themselves something to eat." Jesus answered, "You give them something to eat." They questioned, "Should we go and spend 100 denarii on bread and give it to them to eat?" Jesus asked, "How many loaves do you have? Go and see." They found out and reported, 5 loaves and 2 fish. Jesus directed them to have all the people sit down in groups on the green grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks, broke the loaves, and gave them to his disciples to distribute to the people. They all ate and were satisfied. And the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces of bread and fish. The number of men who had eaten was 5,000, not counting women and children. Significance: this miracle highlights Jesus' compassion and his ability to meet the practical needs of people, reinforcing their belief in him as the Messiah. These stories illustrate the power and compassion of Jesus, inspiring and strengthening the faith of millions of believers around the world. For Jesus calms the storm. Mark 4:35-41. Context: after a long day of teaching, Jesus said to his disciples, "Let us go over to the other side." They left the crowd and took him along in the boat. Story: as they sailed, a fierce storm arose, and waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" Jesus got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." Significance: this story highlights Jesus' absolute power over nature and encourages his disciples to trust in him, even in the most perilous situations. 5. Jesus heals a woman suffering from bleeding. Mark 5:25-34. Context: while Jesus was on his way to heal Jairus' daughter, a large crowd followed and pressed around him. Story: in the crowd was a woman who had been suffering from bleeding for 12 years. She had endured much under many doctors and had spent all she had. Yet her condition only worsened. She had heard about Jesus and thought, "If I just touch his clothes, I will be healed." She came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak. Immediately, her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. At once, Jesus realized that power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" His disciples answered, "You see the people crowding against you, and yet you can ask, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. The woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, trembling with fear, and told him the whole truth. Jesus said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." Significance: this story not only demonstrates Jesus' healing power, but also emphasizes the importance of personal faith and his compassion for those who suffer. 6. Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead. John 11:1-44. Context: Lazarus, the brother of Mary and Martha, was very ill. The sisters sent word to Jesus, saying, "Lord, the one you love is sick." Story: Jesus said to his disciples, "This sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it." However, he stayed where he was for 2 more days. When he arrived, Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Martha went out to meet him and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." Jesus told her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha answered, "I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day." Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die." Later, Jesus met Mary and wept with her and the others. He went to the tomb and ordered it to be opened. Despite Martha's concerns about the odor since it had been for days, Jesus said, "Did I not tell you that, if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" They took away the stone, and Jesus prayed, then called out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." Lazarus came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen, and a cloth around his face. Jesus said, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." Significance: this miracle is one of the most powerful demonstrations of Jesus' authority over death, affirming him as the source of life and offering hope of resurrection to those who believe in him. These stories all contain profound lessons and educational value, helping to strengthen faith and love for Jesus.